I'm going to talk briefly about some legislative issues. Shh. Silence is golden. In your folder, there is a green piece of paper that you could refer to some of the things I'll be talking about. It's our legislative agenda. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things and then open the floor for questions, anything you might want to raise or talk about. Our top priority is the COLA bill, which we've mentioned before. It is now in print in each house. Senator Jackson, Assemblywoman Pfeffer Amato has introduced the bill. So we have a live bill in the Senate and the Assembly. The bill is going to be amended because we need a new fiscal note. When the bill was introduced last year, the fiscal note said it would cost $300 million roughly. When the bill was reintroduced this year, because it's a new session, all bills have to be reintroduced. So the same bill came back with a fiscal note that said $1.3 billion for the same bill. So we requested a meeting with the Comptroller's Office to speak to the actuary because it was the exact same bill as the prior year. It was a good meeting. It's unusual to have a meeting with an actuary. It was very exciting. But when we talked to him, the way he interpreted the bill, because of our COLA has a catch-up provision, which I'll get into, he interpreted the language to mean that the catch-up provision going back 23 years would apply to anyone who got the COLA in that 23 years, most of whom are deceased. So we had the meeting to explain that to get the COLA, you have to be alive. And, and even though it goes back retroactively, it's only people who are eligible to get a COLA now in our living and breathing folks. So we amended the bill to clarify the language, and he is going to reissue a fiscal note. So the bill will be amended, but it is in print in each house, and we'll be sending out information with the bill number and encouraging folks to write about it. The other issue, which we've talked about, and we actually got a bill passed, had to do with the Empire Plan, Medicare primary benefits relating to skilled nursing facilities. It passed unanimously in each house. The governor vetoed it. We had a difficult time trying to measure the impact, so we looked at the bill jacket for the veto, and in the bill jacket was a memo in opposition from the Division of the Budget. And the Division of the Budget said it was going to cost $65 million, which we find incredible. Because, just quickly, if you're Medicare primary and you're in the Empire Plan, you only get the Medicare benefit if you go to a skilled nursing facility, which is generally 10 days. If you're in the Empire Plan and you're not Medicare primary, you get 120 days of full service. So the Division of the Budget said, well, it's 120, but it gets into a lot of stuff. Anyway, it's a budget issue. The bill is not going to, it's been reintroduced, but it's not going to go anywhere by itself unless we get something in the budget. So this now has become a budget issue. We will ask the governor to include it in her budget. We're not optimistic she will do that. But even if the cost is $65 million, which we find hard to believe, the state general fund appropriation to NYSHIP, to support NYSHIP, is $4.3 billion. So even if the $65 million is real, it's peanuts. Plus, they lowered the rate this year. So they could accommodate this easily within the budget. So we will pursue that as a budget issue. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'll take questions, it has to do with the single-payer health plan, which was reintroduced, which would eliminate all existing health benefit programs in New York State, and there would be a new state-run health care plan administered by the Department of Health. And it would apply to all residents. So we'd all be in it. The sponsors say that we would not lose benefits. It's important for us because as retirees, public sector retirees, we generally have benefits in retirement. But there is a section in the bill that says if you are a public sector retiree and you lose benefits, which is unusual because they said you would not lose any benefits, but if you do, that you would go back to your provider and they would make up the difference, except your provider would no longer exist. There would be no NYSHIP to go back to. And it says, and if you're out of state, for those folks who may be in Florida or the Carolinas who are watching, they say you would go back, same language, go back to where you used to get benefits, but all health providers in the state would be put out of business. So there is no place to go back to. So it's horrible language saying you're not going to lose benefits. And then there's a section of the bill that says, well, if you lose your benefits, here's what you do, which is unworkable. So we will be gearing up. This was introduced after a session. It's the single-payer health plan bill, New York Health Act, and we'll be sending out information about that. So I'm going to stop at this point and take questions. This is your chance on any of these bills or other legislative issues or any issues in general. If you please just come to the mic. Yeah, that's all the folks who, I know.
What's the difference between the Medicare Advantage plan? That is not good for us? I mean, there's Medicare, right? And we have to, like, if you sign up for these plans that they're all advertising, what is the why can't we get into those? Why is it bad for us?
Well, it may or may not be bad for you. I mean, generally, Medicare Advantage plans are not Medicare. They are private entities. And it's actually a managed care program. Some of them say, come on in. We won't charge you any premium. It's because they're getting money from the federal government per capita to operate. And of course, they want to operate at a profit. So they get X number of dollars. They manage the care of all the people in the program, but they want to make sure at the end there's money left over for them. Roughly half of Medicare eligible enrollees are in Medicare Advantage plans. What's happening, which is important for us as public sector retirees, is that a lot of local governments, especially New York City, we're going to take all of their all of their retirees and move them into a Medicare Advantage plan. The city sued because they had language in their administrative code. But generally, they manage care. You may not get all the options that Medicare would provide, and they have to make money.
So when you see Capital District Physicians Health Plan and a retiree signs up for that, now that Medicare with that plan,
That's an HMO.
Medicare Advantage?
No,
That's different. That's a regular.
it's a
That's the one
HMO.
we can be.
Right.
It's an MA plan.
It's a different plan.
I
But you're going to be bombarded with commercials on TV and
Oh,
things in the
yeah.
mail, because this is the open enrollment period,
Right.
and they want you to switch.
And then you can get canceled if you do.
Well, it's private insurance. I mean,
Right.
it's not
People
Medicare.
should know that. They should, because I had a friend that did that. And I said, well, what do you think? It tells you can't sign up for that plan. And you lose
Right.
your insurance.
Well, if you're in NISHIP and you sign up for a Medicare Advantage plan that you see
Right.
advertised, your coverage through NISHIP would be canceled, because you
Right.
can only be in one Medicare Advantage plan at a time.
Right.
I can add a clarification to what Ed just said, because I have been both with an HMO, a Medicare Advantage plan, and with Empire plan. So Medicare Advantage plan, it's Medicare and your health insurance all rolled into one. Empire plan, your Medicare primary, Empire plan secondary, but your claims first have to go to Medicare and be accepted or not accepted, then they go to Empire plan for whatever insurance pays it or doesn't pay it, depending on what the claim is. For Medicare Advantage plan and HMO, you just pay your copay, they take care of all the billing, they take care of Medicare, they take care of everything else. There are advantages and disadvantages to each plan. With a Medicare Advantage plan, or what they call an HMO, and health maintenance organization, you have a network. You can only see providers within that network. So for CDPHP, it's within the capital district, but they also kind of extend their network out to the state. But say, so here's an example. I had to have shoulder surgery. I wanted to have it down in New York, at a hospital in New York City. CDPHP wouldn't pay for that. They would not let me go out of network, so I had to switch over to Empire Plan so that I could go to that hospital and have that surgeon. Now, there are also people who, for example, they're in Florida for part of the year, and they switch back and forth. They're an HMO up here, they're Empire Plan, because there isn't an HMO that services them down in Florida. And you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to switch. But does that, that's just, because I have the experience of being both, I thought that. It does, yeah. It takes a little bit, but they're pretty good about switching over if you have to do it.
Yes, go ahead.
The one thing I wanted to say, the lady mentioned, if you're a state employee, okay, I'm Public Employees Federation, state employee, I have Medicare, and then I have an HMO. But if you get out of the NISHIP plan and go to a Medicare Advantage plan, number one, you lose your $164.96 Medicare Part B that is reimbursed in your pension check. You will lose that. And if you had sick leave credit that was turned into a reduction in premium, you lose that. And you can't get back into NISHIP once you get out. And like she said, the HMOs are a little different. I have CDPHP, and I use it because I am local. If I was going to be traveling or as a snowbird, like she said, I'd switch to the Empire plan. Let Medicare play first and then. But you do lose that Part B credit, and you do lose the sick leave credit. And they won't let you back in. So be very careful when you pick the Advantage plans.
All right, so
I know the silver...
I'm sorry, let me clarify that too. That's only if you go outside of NISHIP. Does that?
Yes, if
because
you leave
if
NISHIP,
you're within NISHIP, you still keep your
you keep your
Leave
165,
credit,
64.96, you keep your sick leave credit, you use Empire plan, or you
Right.
use an HMO. That's NISHIP approved where you live.
Right.
But if you take these Joe Namath plans or these things they advertise, that money they're going to get you is that $164 you already get, okay? So be careful when you do that, all right?
Other questions? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to follow up on the skilled nursing extender there. I believe you got an opportunity to meet with the governor's office or someone last December after it passed both houses
Yes, we did.
unanimously. And can you share anything that they said in that meeting, or was that just what you said about what DOB, about the cost?
They threw out, they referenced the cost issue. They did not quantify it in the meeting. But we talked about the fact that as a Medicare primary, you just lose a benefit that you already had. If you were 64 and a half, you got the 120 days. If you're 65, you get 10, which makes no sense other than, well, it's always been that way. So what? It's wrong.
I guess what I'm asking, Ed, is, given that it had passed both houses unanimously,
Yep.
and they recognized that, did they offer us some hope about what they might be able to do to address that in the future?
The issue we had was the secret of what it was going to cost, which we found out in the DOB memo, which was in the bill jacket. We were incredulous regarding that cost estimate, and we're going to meet with the DOB and see if we can talk to them. The person who wrote the memo actually worked at civil service in the administration of NISHIP. So my initial reaction of reading the bill memo is the person they didn't understand the bill. They didn't know the issue.
I don't remember on the bill that was passed, was there a fiscal note? Was there a cost on that?
No, it was not.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yes, but as I said, even if their cost is true, it is peanuts for the appropriation to support NISHIP.
Yeah, they're talking about a deficit next year, that's going
Yeah.
hurt.
Hi, I'm from Orange and Rockland. After the governor did away with the bill, denied the bill, I went to my assemblyman crazed, okay? Assemblyman Zabrowski went nuts, okay? And his takeaway to me was, okay, that the governor was not too friendly and the people around her to retirees. Besides the cost, we weren't warm and fuzzy to the governor, okay? I don't know whether that, I don't think the assemblyman would lie to me. He's a friend, and he certainly did vote for the bill, and as did all his colleagues, but it's something to think about. The other thing is, I went to a recent conference at New York Statewide Senior Action Council, and they're pushing single payer. I'm not for that. But I don't think they realize, okay, what you said about you go back if there's not the same benefits to your local source, but the local source is gone. I think that's a piece of education that really needs to be pushed with some of these other organizations, because you're not hearing that. You're hearing how good single payer is and it's going to help everybody and kumbaya and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know whether they realize that. So just a thought.
Yeah, yes, I understand what you're saying. Most of the members in that association are not public sector retirees.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have the benefits that we generally have. And they say, well, it's going to be great. It's going to be free. And, turning the entire health care system over to the Department of Health to run it. I mean, look what happened when they tried to run the COVID vaccines the first time.
Right.
It was an abomination.
A mess.
By the way, you made an impression because your assemblyman has introduced the bill to protect benefits.
I don't know of any agency, state agency, or program that runs anything properly, the way it was intended, and successfully. And I can't understand why insurance companies are not putting, health insurance companies are not putting up a big stink about losing their jobs. So that's all I got to say.
They'll be put out of business.
Yeah, I don't understand why you don't hear from her so quiet.
Mike Blue, Capital Region Chapter. Yeah, health insurance companies have what they call lobbyists, and those lobbyists are working very hard to prevent any single-payer healthcare system. You can be assured of that, because they understand that they lose that business too. So this is all about their money and what they make. So at the end of the day, a single-payer healthcare system, I personally believe, has potential, but it would have to be something that was very carefully vetted to make sure that we didn't lose benefits. That being said, I just wanted to remind everybody that CSCA and PEF are fighting absolutely tooth and nail against any single-payer healthcare system. So you can and NISA too is also opposed. So you have very large unions fighting against any single-payer healthcare system in New York State. So the chances are very good that they will not happen. So I think I don't want anybody to feel as though that's going to happen. I think it's very unlikely that it'll happen given the opposition that they face. And, you know, the healthcare industry is spending billions to prevent single-payer healthcare in this country and in this state.
We are part of a coalition that includes those groups that you talked about. And as a matter of fact, I'm scheduled to speak at their convention next month.
There you go.
Any? I have to think about it. Coalition to Protect Health Benefits. I'll put it in the newsletter. We're in there with the hospitals and, you know, doctors and healthcare providers. There's only 5% of the population that does not have health insurance one way or the other. So they're trying to dismantle the whole system under the premise everybody needs health insurance. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Actually, a comment. Experience of a 96-year-old who I worked with regarding the rehab, the 120 odd days. There's a problem in that this individual went in for rehab and they put the individual on a drug called nifedipine, which was an additional blood pressure medication to lower the blood pressure, which wasn't needed because the individual was already on a blood pressure medication. So the individual went into a rehab, public employee retiree, and put on nifedipine, which caused the individual's ankles to swell. Not too helpful when you're trying to rehab. And they also put the individual on an antidepressant. And I said, why? Why would you do that? It's an appetite stimulant. And I said, okay. But a lot of these rehabs, as we know, are also long-term care. And so there's a motivation, I believe, and especially in this case that I'm talking about, to convert that individual to long-term care, get them out of rehab. So the individual went through 20 days of rehab, and in talking with the people providing the rehab to this individual, they said, oh yeah, this person's progressing, doing great. And then like a few days later, oh, no, not progressing anymore. No longer covered under rehab. No longer going to get the 100 some odd days of rehab. We're going to move this person right into long-term care. So obviously, you can see the effect on cost. They want to, in my belief, convert the person as quickly as possible out of rehab, get them into long-term care. And so that affects, I think, the cost, you know, going forward with concerns about the cost of long-term care, because there's a motivation of these for-profit and not-for-profit, privately owned, to want to convert, I believe, people to long-term care and not provide the necessary rehab. Just a comment.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.